No, don't worry, in this video I'm not going to talk about the jockeys of the apocalypse or gamin. I mean Xingqui, Xingqi, Bennett, and Xiangling. Because if it wasn't an over-predictable video, and you would already know it. Today in this video, excluding these 4 stars that are known to be literally 5 hidden stars. Let's really talk about a top 7 of Genshin Impact's best 4 stars today. For the old ones, for the new ones, for those who still lack parts in some teams, for those who have an illusion to build some new character, or simply for this concept of 4-star characters. I don't know if one day before watching this video you've seen a video talking about a big problem you're having lately. The 4 stars, and it's that basically there's 5 rascals, and the rest are practically not at all. They're making an ecosystem of too few 4 stars and too uninteresting. But within all that, today we are going to see the 7 best 4 stars apart from the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So leave a good like, a good Bennett, do subscribe, leave a good comment for the algorithm. Thanks for enjoying and watching the video and the channel. You know, it doesn't cost you anything, it supports a lot, makes the video and the channel grow, recommends the video, positions the video for more people to see. So running, give it like, subscribe to bell. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the airs. Okay. So let's go with the top 7 of the best 4 stars all over Genshin Impact. We started with not a 4 stars, but a group category of 4 stars. Yeah, I'm talking about dedicated supports. These characters are going to start this top for several reasons and are not taller for a very important reason. Many of them, not to say most, are dependent on their cheeks, and that makes them more expensive and even sometimes more expensive than a 5 stars at Chero number 1. And number 2, quite a few of these characters literally only enable 1 or at most 2 teams in the whole game, so they're good 4 stars, but they have their limitations. Inside the dedicated stands, you know there are Sarah, Goru, Faruzan, Mika, some others that I will be forgetting, and all that are missing in the game. Usually already at Chero, Cone will give a couple of interesting buffs, and Chicks give us the mythic plus 50, 60 critical damage to the corresponding element of your reaction, and this makes them very interesting. And most are best in slot for their compositions in particular. Zara with Raiden Hyper Carry, Goru for the teams of Ito or Triple Geo, Faruzan for Xiao Uyu and Scaramouche, Karis and Sanemo, and so on. Top 7, top 6 of Genshin Impact's top 4 stars, we have Charlotte and Sei. Charlotte, I didn't expect Charlotte here because the truth is that Charlotte is one of the 4 stars today. Cryomo, more useful than there is as healer and defensive contribution, has exceeded Chero to too much Diona and Chiki since Hoyo Versara almost has. Implemented an evolution and a line on what is the construction, goal, and combat of needing a heating source. Extremely powerful not only to combine with Fiorina, but for enemies both for corrosions and losses. Generals of life like your Shotios of many enemies and you prefer no longer only sources of energy or shields like Deona. But you literally prefer overhearing, you prefer that a 1-button character cure you to the whole team, and in the case, Charlotte has a brand with the Nahida-like elemental that leaves cryotics with which it mainly benefits. To the permafrost, in fact, Charlotte has a very interesting permafrost with Novalet Fiorina, so is a very powerful healer. Practically his heating at the height of characters like Jin, giving him a button and healing the whole team. Charlotte's a pretty interesting 4-star character in the top 6. Top 5, and we're going with another heater that basically is also a heater that gives us enough heating for the team and applies to us an element that is scarce in the game yet. Since it came out just a little while ago, and it's still the element with the fewest characters in Genshin Impact, and we're talking about Yao. Yao. If it has been overtaken by Baiju, and Baiju is more interesting in other teams, but Yao has the peculiarity that if you only play with your elemental to apply against an enemy, it has rotation of 15. And that Yao adapts well. Unlike Baijuju quick swap teams that are teams entering and leaving the field mainly blue and D. Made if you want to play Fiorina next to Kinnish and then some Pyro for burning and crackling Yao to combine that. Healing with Fiorina is not bad, although Kinnich's core team is Bennett, literally Bennett, Fiorina, Kinnich, Xiangling. Although still healing is not the most consistent thing in the world for Fiorina, but the team works perfectly so Yao. Yao as healer 4 stars inside, mostly on the beads. You don't have to baidu top 5 characters. 4 stars. We have Rosaria. Rosaria is a cryo sub DPS that can enable all cryos today from so much reverse melt. As Permafrost mainly has or had at the time one of the most powerful variants of Permafrost, the Morgana 15 before, to exist Yaka nor Natsuma and can still be used on the team that I always mention in many videos of Rosaria Kazuha. Monaganyu that all have 15 seconds of cooldown and is very frantic rotation and is quick swap. This word so rare that means that during the rotation of the team all the characters enter and leave continuously is very interesting and in the far. Inverse Melts generates you one of the strongest 4-star free-to-play teams that there would be so much Bennett. Xiangling, Rosaria, and Akeya, for example, to play 2 cryos, 2 pyros, and melt a lot even today has a team also free to play that has created and climbed a lot in the game, although it is not played a lot because really, there are people who prefer other similar teams of the character itself. But are the reversed melts of gaming a gaming Rosaria? Diona Bennett where gaming melts, leaving half a second between descending and descending. You have a very powerful team, where Rosaria enters, but as I said, gaming is usually played, or you usually like to play on your team's career really means. The Fiorina, Xiangling, Bennett, but in the top, we are already in the top 3 of current best characters of Genshin Impact, and these. Top 3 is interesting, is curious, it is difficult to put a top 1 inside. This top 3 are all very similar, but it also happens that within this top 3, all these characters have seen or appreciated their work, or the function they do is literal a little bit limited. Let's start at the top 3 of these characters by Shebrus and Telfil, but Shebrus are not dedicated supports. Not because while it has the limitation that Shebrus is for a single equipment in quotation marks, that are the overloads 2 pyros, 2 electros, 3 pyros and electros so successively is not a character Shikes dependent. Shebrus just makes one do all hissy. I work perfectly and many. Now that Raiden has come, because in this same banner of Raiden or Kinnis you have taken out some Shebrus as this allows you, and is a pretty big advantage in the game that not many characters can give you free. A Bennett or a Kazuha in very powerful teams of the game, in teams as I said of overload of 2 Xiangling Shebrus Electros. You have a very powerful overload team, you can play even Toma instead of Vishal or Raiden already and stuff like that, and you have teams quite consistent and with a very strong and interesting damage, and not only that, but you already know the great news and about for the Raiden National literally forgives the Raiden Hypercard, which is different than the Raiden National, the Raiden Sarah Kazu. Bennett can release a Kazuha for another team, for example in Nuvilet Fiorina Kazu, and Solast Kuki or Charlotte or something like that, or you've electrocharged or Suprema Frost, and then you've got Shebrus on the Raiden Hypercard, and you can do the chore. Correctly, I repeat it. Got a lot that if it was the best variant with Shebrus, that if not, that it is still the best in slot with Kazuha, and in the future with Xilonen, but Shebrus gives you only one variant that is not distant, that is not very distant from the main variant, and frees you a Kazuha. Is already a point in favor for Shebrus, not only enable you teams. Comfortable overload for many abysses frees you a Bennett, and that on top you can play or release in other situations a Kazuha for another team, so top 3 Shebrus and top 2 and top 1 will seem very strange, but they are double posts because are a single element that shares 2 very interesting characters. The top 2 is going to be for Fischl and Baidu. In my opinion, Baidu has stayed a little further behind and complements less equipment than could complement Fischl, but Fischl with the seeing against a single enemy and its overall capacity absurd energy for the team, i.e. it is an incredible battery and damage against a single brutal enemy you can have is a barbarity in Fischl today without counting on the gillets of the apocalypse. is one of the best 4 stars in the game, and in fact many people who have other tops or reviews varied in EU. Genshin Impact usually even puts Fischl in the Guilds of the Apocalypse in my opinion. I don't think he's above Xingqui. Neither from Xingqi nor Xiangling nor Bennett with gaming would be debatable, because gaming is a carry and perhaps Fischl has points in favor, but the question is that for many people, Fischl is one of the Gillets of the Apocalypse personally. No, but if I would put it as you see in second best 4 stars of all Genshin Impact with Beidou, who is very well. But in my opinion, Fischl in the end has highlighted much more than Beidou, and the best 4 stars not counting already, I say, with their famous Giletis is Sakarosa and Lynette sharing position as Fischl, and Beidou the same story, Sakarosa has survived. And is used much more than Lynette. The only problem that Sakarosa bar Lynette has, in case of use, is that there is Kazuha and E. That also exists Xiangling then, to look for 2 anemones people usually play literally Kazuha or Xiangling, or if even Jin in teams with Furina for the theme of healing and Jin. Is the permanent then Sakarosa that has a function, more similar to Kazuha than to a Xiangling who is healer, because it has become in disuse, but really the older ones who know. The real function of Sakarosa, those who know not only the Sakarosa taser that speaks of many teams, but simply use Sakarosa in almost any position where you use Kazuha. You know the great potential Sakarosa has, which facilitates the damage of the teams, and what at free-to-play level personally, that I always challenge to pass all the Abyss's full 4 stars. You have been able to check and play with this character, and in short is a Kazuha, let's say small, and that worsens a Peline cooldowns. Because instead of 15 is 20, and this, you know, has always been harmful in Genshin, but the best 4 stars. Outside the nets of the Apocalypse in Genshin Impact is Sakarosa as final note, they will say. And Lynette. Lynette here, if not used, is also that Lynette came as an ammo, who also has a taunt that is a defensive contribution, and that bufa, the attack of the team instead of the mastery as Sakarosa, and of course is the green shadow that is very important, and also is battery with the C4. You have 2 elementals that generate many more particles to be able to put Favonius or Sacrifice, and that gives an amount of energy like Hyper Battery next to Fischl or above Fischl, which also provides amazing equipment. But the use of so many powerful anemos that people choose to use over Lynette makes Lynette fall into disuse. But technical Lynette is also spectacularly useful for many accounts, so this is the top 7 of the top 4. Genshin's current stars, you know, without the obvious leave me the comments which is your real top 7 characters for Genshin Impact stars, or that you would change up or down, or that you think is missing in the post, is missing. Thoma. Because I really like Thoma doesn't bring much more than a shield or a crepitar, but I think Thoma is the character that most debatable can be to enter the top little bit more already, you know, to leave a like one last time, subscribe, you leave a good comment. To watch, and thank you for enjoying and watching the video and the channel. Thanks for the support you give, care to have very good day, no.